Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, so this is the poll that I done about a week ago, and I was meant to do this video a few days ago, but totally forgot, so I do apologise. So about a week ago, I did this poll where hopefully at some point this year, we're going to see Wilder versus Ruiz, or Ruiz versus Wilder, however. And a lot of people would love to see this fight. Now, it should be, in theory, a pretty straightforward fight to make. They're both PBC fighters, right? So it should be pretty simple to make. And I know that some people are saying, well, Andy Ruiz Jr., he's been out the ring for a long time, so he needs a comeback fight, so it's okay for him to go fight, say, Chris Arreola. Of course, Deontay Wilder, he's been out the ring for quite some time as well. And, of course, a loss to Tyson Fury. Well, I say a loss, a demolition to Tyson Fury. He needs a comeback fight as well. Now, if both of these guys are coming off of a loss and both need a tune-up, why not just use each other? Again, we could argue, say, well, it'd be good to get them both back after a win so the confidence is a little bit high. Maybe we'll get a better fight. And that's a fair comment. But who wins and how between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Deontay Wilder? Now, over 8,000 of you took to the poll on that one, so big up to all of you. And, of course, the answers were Andy Ruiz by knockout, Deontay Wilder by knockout, Andy Ruiz Jr. on points, Deontay Wilder on points, and not sure, but I just want to see it. Now, of course, I did put a emoji of laughing, Deontay Wilder on points, and the reason that I've done that is because Wilder doesn't beat anybody on points. He's one of the most skillless heavyweights out there. But what he has is huge, huge power. Now, I was quite surprised at the results, to be honest with you. I thought most people would probably predict Andy Ruiz Jr. would win, but how I thought it would go is Andy Ruiz Jr. on points, followed by a close second, maybe Wilder by knockout. That's how I thought it would go. But 62% of you said Andy Ruiz Jr. would win by knockout. Only 23% of you said Wilder would actually knock out Ruiz. 6% of you said Ruiz would win on points. 1% of you said that Deontay Wilder would win on points. I guess that's a troll. And just 8% of you said, no idea. I just want to watch it. Now, as I said, for me, I thought that most people would probably pick Andy Ruiz Jr. on points or Deontay Wilder by knockout. That's how I thought it would be, so I was totally wrong on how you guys and girls would be thinking about this one. But Andy Ruiz Jr. by knockout. Now, sure, if Wilder was to engage, as in get up close and personal, but Wilder, he doesn't fight. He doesn't really know how to fight. He's not a brawler. He's a long-range, throw the big right hand fighter. That's what he is. And he'll stay away because he's never been confident around the whiskers. I've said this for years now. He's not confident about getting hit around the whiskers. We've seen him on Bambi legs quite a few times against Eric Molina. He was getting beat the living stuffing out of by Artur Spilka and Johan Dewapa. And he's been in all kinds of trouble with quite a few fighters. And ultimately, of course, Tyson Fury just demolished him. So I think that demolishing will make Wilder a more nervous fighter. I think that's the kind of demon that he's not going to be able to get rid of for a long, long time. But I think if he was to fight Andy Ruiz Jr. and beat Andy Ruiz Jr., that may lay some ghosts to rest, where a lot of people who are not on the Wilder hype train anymore, not that he had too much of a hype train, but a win over Andy Ruiz Jr. would do him the world of good. And of course, this would be an announcement to say, right, you know what, don't write me off just yet. I've just knocked out this Andy Ruiz Jr. fella. And especially if he was to somehow do something that he doesn't really do, which is pull out a bit of a boxing clinic and absolutely outboxes Andy Ruiz Jr. Maybe he's going to do what Anthony Joshua done and keep him at the jab and just nick the rounds away. Because Andy Ruiz Jr., he's not the fastest on his feet. Of course, he doesn't really have like long arms and that as well. Wilder, he does have the height. I mean, he's 6'7". He's got a very long reach. He's got very long legs. He is quite nimble on his toes. So he could do it. And of course, he does have that amateur background of course, going to the Olympics. Not an extensive amateur background, much like Anthony Joshua, not an extensive background. I think Anthony Joshua only had, 8 fights more as an amateur than Deontay Wilder. But hey, you know what? Some people mature quicker than others. Quite clearly, Anthony Joshua did. But it's an interesting fight, though, isn't it? It's a very, very interesting fight. I would love to see this fight. Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz Jr. Who do I think would win? Well, I think Andy Ruiz Jr. would win. But for me, I think that he'd win on points. I don't think Wilder will get close enough for Ruiz to land the big bombs on him. Because we know Wilder, he won't be able to take it. But I don't think Wilder would engage. And I'm not too sure if Andy Ruiz Jr. can trap Deontay Wilder. Because Wilder's got these big, long, skinny, stalk-like legs who can just get out of range very, very quickly. Okay, so I'm not too sure that Ruiz can trap him. If he can, I'll be very, very impressed, that's for sure. Andy Ruiz Jr., he's got a phenomenal chin. We know that. We've seen him take huge shots over the years. But Wilder, he does have that speed in the right hand. It's not like he's got power, not at all. It's like a David Haye, where he just throws it at speed. Speed kills. Okay, that's where his so-called power comes from. But he lands on Andy Ruiz Jr., there's a good chance Andy Ruiz Jr. could go to sleep as well, which is why I think that this is a very, very interesting fight. But either way, that's the result. Most of you think that Andy Ruiz Jr. would win by knockout, by quite some distance as well. Drop your thoughts below. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.